That's us. And I just want to take a quick poll of those in the room. Does anyone now, or are you shortly planning to be managing an organizational social media account of any kind? All right. And for your personal social media, do you manage your individual social media in such a way that it is your professional profile in any way on any platform? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, just one. So I'm trying to cover both, but my experience here that I'll be sharing is primarily organizational, so I think it's a good fit for this group. And this is a brief overview of my presentation today. I'm going to talk about our goal when we are using social media as an organization and how we can kind of shift that goal. I'll be talking about who our audience is. I'll mention metrics briefly, and then I'll share tools, 8 tools in 8 minutes. First of all, the goal for our law library's social media initially was to replace a print newsletter. Apparently, the students had not been picking it up or had not been reading it, and the thought was, well, maybe if we put it on social media, then they'll read it. And it's a good goal. It's a necessary goal because we have information that we need to convey to whoever our audience is. And what I mean by newsletter information is things like our hours, our policies, events that are coming up, something educational that, you know, would be a tidbit for them, and talking about the library's successes. That's what I mean by newsletter information that we're trying to disseminate. But what if we shifted our goal from disseminating information to building a community? What would that look like? And to me, what that looks like is always keeping in mind those real-life relationships and how social media can build new ones and strengthen existing ones. So here's an example of some of our newsletter information. This is just a picture of our library's calendar and a note about how the hours have changed. It's not that interesting, and you can see that only 2 people liked it. This is our business manager and a student who likes everything we've ever posted. But this is the medicine. There is also sugar that helps the medicine go down. And one of those things is to print other people's newsletter type of information. The reason this is helpful is because we know these other people, and they're trying to get their information out. They're having kind of a similar level of success that we are, and so they really appreciate it when we use our platform to help them. So this is something that our IT department does. They have a series of CLE lectures about the intersection between law and IT. And it has nothing to do with the law library. I'm advertising their website, and you notice now more people like it, including the director of IT. So we actually get a comment. Here's another example of someone else's item that we promoted. This is one of our journals at the law school promoting their symposium, saying, you know, when their event is coming up. And look how many people like it. These are mostly students. So this is exactly who we're trying to reach. And it lets us know that they are seeing and reading and appreciating what we're putting on our social media. And hopefully they're reading our newsletter information too. It passes before their eyes. This is Instagram. And just as an aside, I'll show you something that I've learned on Instagram. When you hashtag a very general term, like I hashtagged climate change, well, there are folks who are looking for the hashtag climate change because they're promoting their climate change website, whatever it is. And so these mobile leads and tenacious growth, I think they must have seen hashtag global and thought, oh, we're global. We're going to like everything that's global, and that's going to build their social media. So I've learned if I'm going to use a hashtag, it needs to be very specific to law libraries so that I attract the right crowd. Another thing I've learned, this highlight right here, on Instagram, you only get one link that works. You get the link in your profile. So if you include a link in your comments or in your captions on your photos, it's not going to be clickable. So the odds that someone's going to type this into their browser and look it up are very slim. And so What I tend to do instead, now that I've learned, is I put link in profile, and I change my profile link temporarily to where I want to direct the traffic. So when you print other people's newsletters, sometimes they print your newsletter. So this is the law school's communications department doing their job, promoting the law library. Once you have that rapport, things tend to go easier in terms of showing that you are part of the law school community. And of course, we retweeted it because it has to do with us. Again, with building community, what I try to do on social media is not just to speak, but to listen. And then when I hear something that I like, I say that I like it. So what I mean by that is our core audience, law students, when they post publicly, I want to be listening. Now, if they've got their tweets protected, if they've got their Instagram protected, I'm not going to send them a request, like, ooh, can the library see what you're doing? That would be creepy. So just their public posts. And I definitely want to look for milestones to appreciate, and anything law-related. If they are studying, if they are struggling with citation, anything that has to do with our mission, when I see that, I want to like it or offer to help. So here's an example, and I've cropped out the identifying information, of a faculty member in the library. She likes to go on campus, find a beautiful image, and just post the image. So the library likes that, visibly. Here's something that a student posted, her last day of law school. Huge, on this cute calendar. The law library likes that she is graduating, and so we retweeted that for everyone else to see that we care about our students. And here's something getting out into the actual community nearby. You can see that the Richland County Bar is mentioned, and South Carolina Legal Services is mentioned. So when I retweeted this tweet, they saw that the law library is putting their message out to the community. My next shift of mindset is audience. So we all know that when we go on social media, if we're posting publicly, it's not just our friends, it's not just our followers who are seeing things. There is an unintended audience out there. And sometimes that can be nerve-wracking because it feels like a bunch of strangers that you can't see potentially judging you, and it makes it hard to post because you don't know who these unseen people are or what they're thinking. And so the way I try to shift my own mindset is to think about a primary audience and a secondary audience. So there are overlapping circles, and I want to think about not only how I appear to my primary audience, but how they want to appear to their primary audience that may not entirely overlap. Let me give an example. If we're talking about our individual professional social media, who is our primary audience? Well, it's our professional network. It's probably people in this room or people with our same job title at other institutions, that kind of thing. Who else is probably seeing these posts? Probably our friends and family. When they get on there, they'll find us. And probably law students, right? Past students, our current students probably look for us and our professional image on social media. And so just keeping in mind, those are the likely secondary audiences. When the law library goes on social media, our primary audience is law students. Who do law students want to impress? Who else do they know? Well, for example, they know people who are a little earlier in the process than they are, people who are a little further along in the process than they are. So prospective students and alums are that secondary audience, as well as those law students' parents, their other friends, their potential employers. And so keeping in mind who those likely next levels are helps me to understand what I need to post. On Facebook, if you are a page, you can like other pages, and you can also view a page's feed. So just like you have your personal Facebook news feed, if you log in as your page, you can see the page's feed. This is on the right side of the page as you go log in as your page. For prospective students, I have liked pages of the colleges that they are likely to come from. So we're in South Carolina, and I have liked just about every college or university in the state. And when I go to my pages feed, I see what these universities have posted. If their library has its own Facebook, I like that as well, and I see what it has posted. And all I do is take a few minutes, and I look for posts like this. The Citadel, one of the universities that feeds into our law school. This is about an internship in the archives. It has to do with U.S. history. Now, admittedly, this is outside of our core mission, right? Archives, not library. U.S. history, not law. But wouldn't you think that the intern at the Citadel Archives who's excited about this U.S. history thing could potentially be interested in a law library in law school later on? And so if all I do is click like on this as the law library, potentially plants a seed. It may or may not grow. But this is one of the ways that we do outreach beyond our doors with social media. This is USC. Again, it's South Carolina for sure. I checked. When someone takes a personal moment to celebrate an out-of-town sports team, it is outside of our core mission. However, it shows a little personality, and so the law library reaches out to another department in the same law school, and look who liked this. That's a student. That's our core mission, and they're seeing us being human. With metrics, I think there is a tendency to strive for 100%, right? So many of us are overachievers. And so this drive to get more likes and more followers is natural. But what if we moved towards seeing metrics as a map? Who are we reaching? Who are we not reaching? What do they like? What are they less interested in? Some curiosity about what others who do what we do are doing can help us think more deeply about what it is that we do. Facebook has something called Insights. If you click on Insights when you're logged in as your page, you can select pages that you believe are similar to yours. So I didn't want to share my list, and I realize the numbers here might be too small for you to read, but there are names of law schools and law libraries over here that I have cut off. And what I did was I looked for who might be similar to us. And this is us at the bottom. This is U of SC Law Library. We have 362 people who have currently liked our page. And notice I have selected others who have more likes than we have. These are people I want to emulate their social media. You can see how that has changed from last week. So someone has gained a few, someone has lost a few. You can see how many posts they're making. So it looks like everyone tends to post at least once a week. Some post a lot more than that. And then you can also see engagement. And what engagement means here is reactions, as in love and like and haha and all of the options that you have on Facebook. Those reactions, the comments, and the number of times that those posts have been shared. And I really strive for engagement. It looks like we're doing well. There's not that much that we can really do about our total page likes, because I think when that spikes tends to be in the fall when you get your incoming 1Ls. And if we were late to the game getting started, we're always going to be a little behind, and that's okay. Something else with metrics, you can see what works on which platform. Generally, I put the same or similar post on all of our platforms, and we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The students tend to like Instagram more, but they do follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. And on Instagram, visual impact is key. So when we opened in our new location, I posted this. Come in, we're open. It's a cliche, right? A visual cliche. And it's got some of that newsletter type of information. Here's our hours. This is a picture of our new reading room. It's the showpiece of the library. And you can see that we've gone from 18 likes, mostly people who are happy that we're open, not that they loved how this looked, to 30 likes. They love how it looks. And we had a similar result with these two posts on Facebook. So you'll see the come in, we're open at the bottom here with 368 people that it reached. Facebook will not show every post to everyone who has liked your page. They have an algorithm that I can't explain to you, but it does have something to do with who's clicking, who's commenting, who's sharing, and the more positive reactions that you get early on, the more people will see your post. And so once again, it's almost double for the more beautiful post. But again, this one's the sugar, and that one's the medicine. We still have to do both. We can't just always be popular. Facebook also shows you negative feedback. So if you want to dig into your insights, instead of clicks, reactions, and shares, you can click into who's hiding your post. So if they see it and they click in this upper corner on their news feed, they can click that I want to see less like this. And I've noticed that that tends to happen on my more popular posts. And I suspect that the reason is because this popular post has been seen not only by my primary audience and my secondary audience, but is getting beyond the people who would ever be interested in a law library. And so I suspect, it doesn't tell me who hid it, but these two people who hid the post must have been wondering, why am I seeing this at all? On Twitter, visuals are less important. Same two posts, they each got 1 retweet and 3 likes. 1 retweet and 3 likes. So every platform is different, and you just learn about what works where. Now, for my final act, I will quickly run through some tools that I've discovered and started using. And this hopefully just adds to your toolbox a little bit. Facebook offers an away message. So if you go to messages from your page and you click away, you can set up a message so that automatically it will respond immediately to whoever messages your Facebook page. So someone asked me at 11:55, unfortunately I'd gone to lunch a little bit early, so I missed this. And I didn't get back to it until 12:58. But this automatic message allowed me to keep my 12-minute response time, even though it actually took me an hour. I don't know if you saw this tweet that shook the law library universe. Here's Stanford Law Review on Twitter saying, we'd blue book our tweets, but Twitter doesn't offer small caps. And Northwestern says, in small caps, try harder. So if you want to be ready for a Twitter battle like this, use manytools.org, and you can do upside down text, strike through, etc. You just type it in, and then you copy from the other box. Canva.com helps someone who is not good at visuals be good at visuals. It will help you format your posts so that it's the right size for whichever type of social media platform you're using. And even though none of this relates, some of it's not even professional, and it doesn't relate to our topic, if you can visualize how to change it, how to fit something in this space, what I decided to do is use our school colors. So Garnet has a hex number that I was able to get from our media kit online. So I put in the number. Our other color is black. And all you have to do is say, OK, I'm going to change all of the blue to garnet and all of this yellow to garnet. And you can change them all instantly. You don't have to click from one to the next. And then we get this that looks appropriate for us. Another thing I like to do is use book covers as thumbnails. to be the visual on Instagram, which requires a photo or visual with every post. So when I need a visual, book covers work great. So this is my favorite collage maker to use from the desktop. You can pull images from your computer. Then you select which type of grid you think will best fit them. You can then adjust from there. And then you pick a background color to be the in-between for the frames. And you can even use this color picker so that you can select the precise color from that cover. So for example, a post about our mindfulness initiative looked like this, and our post for Martin Luther King Day looked like this. And it takes less effort, I think, than a lot of other methods. Hootsuite solves a problem for me that is, when I want to share to Instagram, and I have not taken a picture from my phone that I want to share from my phone, Instagram does not make that easy. Sharing a photo to Instagram from your desktop requires a workaround. And my favorite is Hootsuite. Because if I log into Hootsuite, I can put my caption here, studying for the bar, and I can upload a file here. And then when I click send, when I'm all done, it will send a message to the Hootsuite app on my phone that I have a notification that it's time to publish to Instagram. And from there, I click I'm ready to publish, and it will go straight to Instagram. I also use tinyurl because when I have, for example, I want to share a catalog search result screen, it's always messy. It's very long, and I think it is at risk of breaking sometimes. So I will select a custom alias here and then change my Instagram profile link to something that looks like it makes sense. The emoji keyboard. I like this for its Chrome extension, but it's also a website. You can search for emojis and then copy and insert the ones you find. The challenge with emojis is it is hard, unless you're really familiar with it, to find whether there is a relevant emoji or not, right? The metadata, it's a mess. So if I'm looking for tools, this actually does a pretty good job of picking all the emojis that relate to tools. And same with Emojipedia. And here's the benefit of Emojipedia. You can see what that emoji looks like on various phones. So you don't want to assume that it's always going to look like a dog with brown ears and a spot, because it may be an orangish fox-looking dog. It could change from phone to phone. Know Your Meme has been invaluable to me. I heard somewhere, I think it was on my own Facebook, someone mentioned a student-athlete meme, and I didn't know what that was. So I had to know. When we say meme here, we're talking about internet phenomena. Is it a video? Is it an image macro, meaning a picture with big block text? Is it a catchphrase? What is it? So when I looked it up, it explained it, and it gave me an example. So the idea is, with this meme, somebody says something banal. The waiter asks, do you need more time to decide? And if they're talking to a student athlete who is pumped, who is so excited about life, who feels successful and driven, they're going to overuse emojis, and they're going to be a little bit self-centered maybe about how little time they have because they are chasing their dream. So now that we know our meme, how can the law library use that? Well, it was exam time. We had to, break the tension. So we say something banal like, good luck on exams, and then the law student athlete says, look, after grinding in class, the library, and outlining, I'm going to overuse emojis, basically saying I'm going to succeed in law school. And we actually do have a law student athlete using their 5th year of eligibility, and apparently we got it right. So I have 5 minutes for questions before we switch over to India's presentation about ethics in social media. Any questions? Yes?
I really enjoyed the presentation. Have you ever had a problem where a student took something that you either posted or reposted and felt like it was political or it went against a student's values or something like that?
I've tried really hard to be apolitical. There was one post that I made that I thought would get no comments at all, that actually got the most comments of any post. And it was a back and forth between students, and I just let it go. But it was about Library of Congress subject headings. Could it have been any more banal? But the Library of Congress was seeking public comment about whether the subject heading should be illegal aliens or undocumented immigrants, something like that. Yeah. And that kind of let me know where the line was. Any other questions?
Does Hootsuite only apply to Instagram?
No, Hootsuite is something that you can use for, I think, as many social media platforms as there are. It certainly does Facebook and Twitter as well. And so when I'm doing a similar post, I will sometimes set it up in Hootsuite so that it's easy to copy.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'll let India set up. Thank you so much.
Along the lines of the question that came up, one of my fun social media stories that I like to share is I was the person who had the privilege of tweeting when George Mason's law school became the Antonin Scalia School of Law and eventually Scalia Law School. So that was a very interesting week of receiving messages on Facebook, hiding and deleting posts. So I connected with that question when you asked it. If you all just give me one moment to bring up my presentation. Okay, before we dive into the Jeopardy round, I actually want to start by giving you my takeaways for this session. Introduce myself first. My name is India Sowers-Page. I'm currently the Outreach and Research Services Librarian at the University of Georgia School of Law Library. I've already mentioned I previously worked at George Mason University and Howard University. I had the privilege of doing the social media for the law library at all three institutions. Social media kind of found me, and I grew to love it. Just as a result of being one of the newer people on staff, and you get your assignments, and everyone says you look young enough. You do the social media, but I've truly grown to enjoy talking about it, teaching about it, and I'm fascinated when I look at the different ethics issues that are emerging around social media. So we'll explore a little bit of that when we get into our trivia questions. But the takeaways, make sure I have my mic on. It's my goal that you walk away from this session with the curiosity about learning about how your jurisdiction treats social media ethics. It's very different from state to state. This is an emerging topic, an ever-changing and evolving topic, so much so that I actually ended up deleting one of our trivia questions last night because there's still some debate about one of the areas we'll discuss. And I also want you all to walk away with some inspiration for how you can integrate social media into your curriculum, whether that's through a partnership with your career development office. I was asked this past semester to do a social media session with our CDO office to our first and second year law students, whether that's through the creation of a LibGuide, or if you are a faculty member, if you teach professional development, this is right up your alley. But even if you don't, just integrating some of these topics into your fact patterns to help spark the conversation, I think that our students could use as much help as possible applying a critical lens to their social media usage. A lot of times, we just assume that this current crop of students, a lot of times referred to as digital natives, that they're experts in social media. They have this all figured out. There is some truth to that, absolutely. They're really great at it, adapting to new platforms, trying new things. But a lot of times there's that critical lens, that piece is missing when it comes to our students and their use of social media. So as much as we can usher that into their thinking as possible, I think is a great thing. The platform we're using for the trivia is Kahoot. Are any of you familiar with Kahoot? Okay, so for those of you who are not, this is also, I guess, a way for you to test out whether this is something that you want to use in your classrooms as an alternative to something like Poll. Is it Poll Everywhere, I think is the most popular one? So if you'll join the game by going to kahoot.it, that's KAHOOT.IT, and enter the PIN. Writing it on the board in case anyone needs an app. So we'll lose this front screen to pick up. Everyone in who wants to participate? Let's get started. Question 1. According to the Pew Research Center, what percentage of Americans use Facebook? Correct answer is 79%. That is a staggering number. Keep in mind that this research is referring to the American users who are currently using the internet. So we're looking at 79% of adults in the United States who actually use the internet. The fact that there are that many people on Facebook, it has opened up the door tremendously for anyone in the practice of law to do investigative research, check out jurors, look at opposing parties' information. And so this is a big reason why I'm so interested in social media ethics, is that it is an unavoidable part of the practice of law now.
Well, that extra fact threw me off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which?
Well, that it was the percentage of Americans who actually use the internet.
Oh, okay. I can see that. I will say, just in evaluating Kahoot as we're doing this as well, one of the kind of the drawbacks of Kahoot is you have a very limited text, amount of space for the question.
Right.
Thank you for that feedback. All right, look like we have Eve and Jeremy And Mary up top. Question 2. The ABA Model Rules of Professional Conduct contain strict guidelines for social media usage. The correct answer is false. The ABA Model Rules of Professional Conduct, some would say that there's almost radio silence when it comes to mentioning social media. We do know that there's some areas such as competency, confidentiality, advertising, those areas absolutely touch on social media, but to specifically lay out social media guidelines, we don't have any guidance. So what we're often left with are case-by-case basis scenarios and just kind of a mix-up of a variety of opinions that vary from state to state. Looks like Jeremy is taking the lead. This platform generates a notification that tells the user who has viewed their profile. Looks like most of you got that one right. LinkedIn. What comes to mind when you hear that question? Why might it be an issue that LinkedIn is sending a note for a practicing attorney that LinkedIn is sending a notification to a profile that you viewed that profile?
As a practicing attorney, you are not supposed to have contact with an opposing party represented.
Absolutely. And so there's been some debate about whether that qualifies as a communication with a juror, with, as mentioned, an opposing party. So just something to keep in mind. Unfortunately, there's not a hard and fast answer. Again, a lot of this is case by case. But as one of the quotes I read when I was researching this stated, no one wants to be the guinea pig for something like this. So proceed with caution if you're doing your research on social media. Jeremy's still ahead. Okay. Next question. LinkedIn allows you to designate specialties on your profile. Attorneys and law students should The correct answer is leave it blank. Oh, interesting. Does anyone have any comments on why we're heavily encouraging students and practicing attorneys to leave this blank? Okay. They answer a lot. Oh.
I know a lot of states require, if you want to call yourself a specialist, that you need to have a certification that's recognized by the state.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of hesitation about using the word expert or saying that you're a specialist in something. And so again, with this, if we're erring on the side of caution, you would just leave that blank. Okay. Question 5. Oh, Aaron has taken the lead. Okay. In Donville v. State, a Florida judge was asked to recuse himself after it was discovered that he looks like most of you have heard of this this case, or at least are familiar with the rules that discourage attorneys and judges from having a friendship on Facebook, just to prevent any potential issues with an accusation of the judge not being impartial on a particular matter. I will say that with this area, I see a lot more case-by-case basis. So while this case was, this outcome was decided in the 4th District in Florida, that it was appropriate for this judge to recuse himself. The next district over, in the 5th District, there was another matter where they ultimately did call for a recusal, but there was a lot of debate about whether a Facebook friendship it really means anything. So when I see that much debate coming out in these various formal opinions, that's usually an indication that there's the potential for some shift there. Yes.
So is the expectation then that you're supposed to go through like all of your social media contacts and delete different, like Facebook versus LinkedIn versus calling somebody on Twitter, like that kind, like just do an ultimate purge?
And this is where it's fuzzy and evolving, unfortunately. I feel like with this specific topic, the burden is placed more heavily on the judge to be selective in who they engage with on social media. Aaron is still ahead. Let's see if he can hold the lead. The next question. It's a little wordy, so I actually start reading it before I press next. A lawyer cannot be sufficiently competent without a working knowledge of the benefits and risks associated with the use of social media comes from this state's Bar Association guidelines. Most of you had the correct answer is New York. New York is really leading the way in putting out very specific guidelines when it comes to social media ethics. And so obviously when you have a leader in this area, when other states are making decisions about whether to create guidelines, a lot of times they're going to look at what's already out there. So just if you're curious about a state that has done a really good job of addressing some of these emerging issues, definitely take a look at what's been put out by New York. And Aaron maintained his lead. Just a note about Kahoot, if you're considering using it for your classes, it also takes into account how quickly a person answers. Okay. Number 7. This is the total amount of sanctions imposed when a Virginia lawyer instructed a client to clean up his Facebook page. The client deactivated his account to conceal unflattering behavior. The correct answer is 542,000. This one was kind of one of those hot in the news stories, so I didn't know if any of you all had heard about this wrongful, I believe it was a wrongful death case where the attorney was concerned about his client's, some of his photos with beer and making comments about the kind of women that he is attracted to, instructed the client to clean up the account. Obviously, that's starting to dip into some spoliation issues. The rules of evidence do apply to social media, so that's something to keep in mind as we're teaching our students about social media usage.
come with you, Aaron.
I see. You all have to get Aaron on these next two questions. Okay. When responding to legal questions online, an attorney should absolutely a trick question. All of these answers are some of the major concerns when it comes to the open and casual nature of social media. You know, someone asks a legal question on Twitter, an attorney responds. Have they created an attorney-client relationship? There are all kinds of confidentiality issues that can emerge when you have these, open public conversations about legal topics between attorneys and users online. So we definitely want to encourage our students to be cautious about confidentiality, avoiding those inadvertent attorney-client relationships, and not violating any of the rules against the unauthorized practice of law. You may be answering a legal question online for someone who is in California and you're in South Carolina. And I believe we're at our final question, and then I'll open the floor up to, I'd like to hear some of your experiences with some of these topics and if you've found ways to integrate them into your classroom discussions. Okay. Aaron's still up at the top. It is permissible for attorneys to encourage clients to post online reviews, true or false? The correct answer here is true. It is permissible in most jurisdictions for attorneys to encourage clients to post online reviews. They cannot specify what they want the review to say, and the duty also falls on the attorney to screen the reviews to make sure that there's no confidential information, no false information that can create an unreasonable expectation of future legal services, such as, Attorney Henry won me $6 million in my auto accident case. You should call him and he can do the same for you. That kind of information should be scrubbed from online reviews. So let's see the final scoreboard. Aaron, Terry, and Callie Boss. I like that name.
Aaron, which one did you get wrong?
The last one. I tried to answer quick, and I should have read into permissible.
And of course, because no conference is complete without needless swag, we have some emoji stress balls for our winners.
Swag is not needless.
There's one there. And from here, I'd like to just open the floor up for questions or comments. Have you all had any encounters with any of these issues? Have you talked about social media ethics in your classrooms? I see some yeses. That's good.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I did a presentation on social media, Facebook, for an advanced class, and at the time, I was advising students to consider calling their friends list, and you really can't do it on the mobile application. You have to do it for Facebook and on your desktop to do it really well. And so that was the advice I was giving them, as far as because we were coming into an election year and people were looking for jobs, and what might be funny to your uncles is not really funny to employers, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder if that was the best advice for how to control who sees what, because we know that employers are going to look.
Right, right. I definitely, when I do the social media sessions with our students, I encourage them to make use of privacy settings, make use of settings such as on Facebook, not allowing anyone to just tag you on any photo. Make sure there's a review process. Cleaning up friends lists, absolutely recommended. One thing that I feel like there's been a shift in this conversation around just deleting social media accounts when you're searching for jobs. That's more discouraged now because employers expect you to have a digital presence. I encourage my students to use that to their advantage to make sure they put themselves forward in the best light possible. So you don't have to do a clean sweep. Just make the best use of the settings to present yourself in a professional way.
Because I remember I met this woman and she had banned her children from all social media.
Mm-hmm.
They were about to apply for college, and colleges are not admission. That is odd if you have no digital footprint.
Right.
So so when our child was declined admission to a school and they asked questions, it was because we don't know who you are. Like, who are you? Where have you been? What clubs are you in? Like, how do you have no life? Like, how do you have no social life? You know, but people don't think that's odd. And I remember that being a thing. Like, it was really shocking for her. She thought she was doing the best by just removing them, but it's like off the grid.
Right. I will say when I do the different social media training sessions, I'm always nervous going in that I'm preaching to the choir. But I'm amazed each time at how much my students actually are not familiar with, again, a critical use of social media. A lot of them are surprised that you can use terms and connectors or Boolean searching on certain platforms, or that you can pull your entire tweet archive from the beginning of time into one file, or that you can review all of your Facebook activity, everything you've ever, any videos you've watched, people's posts that you've liked back 10 years if you've been on that long. So while they're very comfortable using it, just kind of thinking a little beyond the surface level, I'm not finding that is always there with a lot of my students. Thank you all so much for your attention. And I do have some more emoji stress balls for those who would like to take one as a souvenir.
Oh, love that. Yeah.
Got one more. Conferences and I'm sitting here
I was going to say, you could throw it.
Looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, and Mike already told you. I mean, he's already late, but I was like, he's already in lunch. I kept to leave right after. Yeah, he's yesterday. Like, oh, he forgot he booked his flight. He should be fine. He said the driver will be waiting for him to help do his portion. Not techie guys here that know you're late.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he'll just do first and then just cut out. All right, have a good night. You too, thank you.
That worked really well.
Really good.
We may have to.
I was more like, yeah. Just plug it in so I can just coffee.
Oh yeah. I could just cut myself on my time. Definitely thrown off.
Yeah, it's what? Maybe 7 o'clock. Maybe it's hard.
Somebody is taking her home from work.
Well, like, wait, you can, it's also a lot.
whole thing.
USC.
Yeah. I got the Jeopardy goes over my head.
Of the outfit. I did try and hang in there.
Good job, that was interesting. Thank you. So is it hard to set up?
It's very, very, very good thing. And it's free for now. I think they're trying. It's free to start.
Right.
And then they'll roll out the pricing much further.
Is it paid for by ads or anything?
Yeah, like that. So you can limit to what other listings can do. So if someone does like post that, it's cool. I would advise you know, or right, especially people who are in college, it's like not nice weekend.
So is this the first time you've run one of those? Yeah.
Yes.
It worked really well.
Shutting down.
Thank you. You've given me some money.
Yeah, me too. I don't think
The other
two
one, this one is cold. And I can verify that there's good market.
I got the general sense from when I answered and it didn't that there is a pretty high premium in points for being quick. I believe when I took a long time and still got the right answer, I still got some points, but a pretty stingy amount.
Yeah, my people like this too, yeah. And it's a good way to just do a quick assessment, like at the end of class, like, and do like really like quick 5-minute, like, hey, what did we learn today?
So she was
Yeah, you're right, like a student 10 goes a long way, like, you know.
So when they did, she entered that.
Oh, I know. I know. We're so excited on that.
And she downloaded, you know, the whole Twitter feed and like she and used that.
I want to Greg about
how would I find out?
I don't know.
I can't know unless I'm. They're not.
So
she would know. And in fact,
I love that me. My
so
program, because I was a plan on Rick
her students go down.
and I was like, well, I'm not
So
going anywhere.
she would find out, especially
You know, and it didn't seem like it was going to be it.
and then she would try to piece it back together. Because you know, it wasn't my happy. It wasn't my fault. On Facebook, she put an invitation on Facebook. Yeah, and so she was telling me her school, because of the private school, chose to say that social media was only.
Right, but I
They could admit, like my roommate bullying me. They could bring all the Twitter posts and including the text message.
I did 2 presentations at once.
So it's like, you know, it's huge, but at the same time, that's so thank you. Yeah. Totally.
I don't know. I don't know if I like that. It's quite pretty.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to say it earlier.
This is, like I say, this is no issue that I will raise with their admissions.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I don't know. I wonder about that. They told me that there was a couple.
That's working too? All right.
Well, see, that's what this is making me think.
Well, no.
Is that we have a situation where someone felt she was being harassed also by part of what they pointed to was they said, well, look at what he's posted in the past.
Yes, right. And that's it. Makes sense. That's how they communicate. Nobody's telling somebody. They're posting it. There's a lot of attention, right? That's the problem having with these mass shooters, right? They post everything, but they want everybody to know. Publicity, right? Because you'd rather be, and what is it they always say? What is that quote now? I'd rather be I don't want to die not famous, but I'd rather, I mean, I'll die poor but not famous.